It sounds like something out of a science fiction movie. A single doomsday bomb that could wipe out all of our modern infrastructure. The electricity grid would go permanently dark, airplanes would fall from the sky. But this bomb exists, and experts are now demanding that Congress do something to protect us. I'm Joe Hicks. It's called an electromagnetic pulse weapon, or EMP, and the technology necessary to build one is in the hands of every nuclear-capable country in the world. So what exactly is an EMP weapon, and how can we defend ourselves? I talked with Dr. Peter Pry, a former advisor to Congress on nuclear security matters.
You'd get an EMP from any nuclear weapon that's detonated at high altitude, above an altitude of 30 kilometers.
Describe for us what an electromagnetic pulse does.
A weapon detonated, a nuclear weapon, again, any nuclear weapon, detonated at that high altitude will generate an electromagnetic pulse, which is a super energetic radio wave, harmless to people in its prompt effects that it pass right through your bodies, but it'll destroy electronics everywhere on the surface of the Earth, beneath the surface of the Earth, in airplanes that are flying above the ground, and electronics are vital to our civilization.
Imagine no grocery store, no bank, no running water. While the pulse itself is harmless to people, most Americans would not survive for long after an EMP attack.
The indirect effects of the EMP would be that they would shut down the critical infrastructures that we depend upon for our survival.
Peter, what would happen if an EMP attack was launched over major American cities? I understand there was a congressional study that looked at this. What kind of things did they find out?
Within a year after an EMP attack by a single nuclear weapon, we would lose at least 2/3 of our national population to starvation, disease, and societal breakdown. EMP is basically a high-tech means of killing people the old-fashioned way, through starvation and disease and anarchy.
So if EMP weapons are out there, what country would be crazy enough to set off a nuclear EMP over the United States, knowing that we would retaliate? I sat down with Reza Khalili. He's an ex-CIA spy who defected from the Iranian Republican Guards. According to Khalili, the current Iranian government might just try setting off an EMP bomb. Now, we disguised Khalili's voice and face to protect his family that's still in Iran.
These are fanatics who believe that the demise of America and the destruction of Israel will trigger an event where the last Islamic Messiah will appear, kill the rest of the infidels, and then Islam will rule the world. And that's where the danger lies.
Wouldn't they not like to see their very lavish lifestyles interrupted if Iran were to launch an atomic attack?
I don't think we seriously understand the threat from the radicals in Iran. We think mutually assured destruction will work because they don't want to get destroyed, so therefore they're not going to launch an attack. Well, you know, if 9/11 didn't teach us anything, then I don't know what will, because the next attack on U.S. could be the end of America.
What is it that caused you to believe that Iran is trying to develop an EMP threat, and what evidence have you discovered that points to this development on the part of that government?
They launched a ballistic missile off of a vessel in the Caspian Sea successfully. There is no other reason to launch a ballistic missile from a ship than for the EMP purposes. And then they also detonated the Shahab 3 missile. So these actions are very alarming and points to the fact that they're quite aware of EMP and our weaknesses to protect ourselves. Their naval ships actually are armed with surface-to-surface ballistic missiles. They're going to expand mission into Atlantic Ocean. They're going to be right outside of Gulf of Mexico. They lease many vessels that are under other flags. They could simply load a missile on one of those missiles and get right behind, right outside of U.S. and launch a nuclear attack. And right now, IAEA has reported, the last report indicates that Iran has enough enriched uranium for 6 nuclear bombs.
Iran is not the only rogue state thinking about EMP weapons. Many experts believe that the North Koreans developed a so-called super EMP, or a nuclear weapon that creates an even more powerful electromagnetic pulse.
2006, the North Koreans conducted their first nuclear test. And It was widely reported in the world press as a failed test, because it was of such low yield, and the seismic signal, it looked like it was widely described as a fissile. This is exactly what a super EMP weapon would look like.
Iranian scientists have been present in North Korea when North Korea detonated a nuclear bomb, and they are jointly working together for arming their missiles with a nuclear warhead.
So we know how dangerous EMP weapons are. We know they could be used by some very unpredictable enemies. The question is, what can we do about it? I asked James Carafano, a security expert with the Heritage Foundation.
Congress has had a number of different legislative vehicles out there looking at strengthening the grid. They really haven't done anything. What's the administration doing? Well, they've actually cut missile defense, which is the way you would shoot down the missile that might explode an EMP weapon. The Department of Defense is doing a little bit. Department of Homeland Security, stunningly, is doing virtually nothing. They've got 15 disaster scenarios, and this is probably the greatest disaster of all, and they don't even have a plan for it. They don't even look at it. Department of Energy is doing virtually next to nothing. So the federal government really is, on this one, almost asleep at the wheel.
Congress is now considering a bill that would harden our infrastructure, and it's called the SHIELD Act.
Congress has been toying around with legislation for a couple of years now. There's an act called the SHIELD Act. There's another act called the GRID Act. This has become a partisan issue. EMP has become kind of locked into the notion with missile defense, and missile defense has become this partisan issue where if you're a conservative, you like missile defense, you like dealing with EMP. If you're a progressive and a liberal, you don't like missile defense, and you think EMP is science fiction, and it's created by something with guys wearing tinfoil hats. How EMP became a political issue, you got me on that one. But it's just the nature of our democracy when people that have political agendas, are taking sides on something that it doesn't make any sense. The missile doesn't care if the country's being run by Republicans or Democrats. It's going to be lights out forever.